Welcome back to another episode of Uncommon Wealth, the show where we dive into the mindsets, moves, and mechanics behind building generational wealth. Today's guest is Matt Burke, founder of Verivest, a platform that brings trust, transparency, and confidence back to the world of real estate private equity. With decades of experience as a real estate investor and a capital allocator, Matt saw firsthand the trust gap between sponsors and investors and built Verivest to fix it. Through third-party verification, performance reporting, and due diligence tools, Verivest is helping operators raise capital with credibility and helping investors deploy capital with clarity. He's also a longtime entrepreneur, family office advisor, and has a deep experience in structuring deals, protecting downside risk, and preserving wealth across all cycles. So Matt, thanks for joining. Let's start from the beginning. Can you share a little bit of your backstory? How'd the business come to life and what those early years look like for you?
Sure. Well, thanks, John, for having me. I think I got into the real estate finance business when I got out of college and was really hard money lender for many years. So that's really where I cut my teeth in the business. Did a lot of individual deals, and then eventually we formed a private 506 Reg D pooled investment fund. So as I ran a number of those funds and figured out what they were all about, coming out of the Great Recession, we kind of pivoted to helping other people do that because I felt it's difficult to make the leap from doing deals one at a time to doing it in a pooled format. So a lot of people need that help. Really, they go to lawyers for it. And of course, lawyers are needed to draft documents and so forth, but they don't necessarily provide the practical business implications and guidance that people need. So that's kind of how we started doing the advisory work and eventually the admin. And one thing has kind of led to another over the years. So, that's one thing I would say, a lesson I've learned is just you start somewhere and you kind of see where it leads.
Well, let's talk about that. And congratulations on your success up to this point. I mean, I was on your website, impressive website, sizable deals that you guys done, lots of assets that you're kind of managing. But now that the business is operating at scale, what's the hardest part for you about staying out of every aspect of the day-to-day while still growing and protecting Verivest that you're building?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question to answer, to say that there's one hardest part. I think it's just hard generally to do that. And I think it's even more difficult as a remote organization, which is kind of the first time in my business career that's happened post-COVID. But I think, having systems in place where you have simultaneously you provide opportunities for people to step up and do things and not micromanage them, but at the same time have accountability. Right. So balancing accountability and freedom is probably the hardest part, particularly in a remote organization.
Did you realize, you made a comment in a remote organization post-COVID, once everything, the dust settled from a COVID standpoint, did you realize that you were able to operate in a virtual environment as opposed to having to go back to an office space?
Yeah, and I think it started for us pre-COVID in the sense that we did have people located working remotely elsewhere, but not a lot. And then once COVID happened, right, it just became pretty apparent that, well, in our business, the way it's structured, we can find people that work from more or less anywhere, which opens up the talent pool, right? Because they don't all have to be located in the same geographic region. But the way in which you operate the business, you're not in the office, you don't have that same collaboration and, interaction with people in the real life, right? And a lot of this, right, on Zoom and other electronic things that it doesn't replace, face to face and belly to belly, but it's so I don't know, there's pluses and minuses and trade-offs like there is in most things.
Yeah. When did you realize, Matt, that from a Verivest standpoint, you're building more than just a business, that this could become real lasting wealth for you?
Well, I mean, I knew early on that how I did in the business was going to be a big part of how I did financially. in my life. And as an entrepreneur, right, that's a risk, of course, that you're taking, that you're betting on yourself. And, it's a big bet. So, you try to hedge that bet with other things that you save money for and so forth. But, the majority of either great success or the opposite is going to be based on, how you do in your business. So, I mean, I knew it
Well,
earlier.
let's talk about that. Some business owners view their company as the retirement plan. They're waiting for the exit to take place, and they're gonna ride off into the sunset, while others try to build wealth separately, taking distributions or draws as the business is growing from a cash flow standpoint. How do you think about that for yourself?
Well, I think you need to do both, right? I mean, if as a business owner, if you had to hire somebody to do whatever the work is that you're doing in the business, you'd have to pay them a significant amount of money. So knowing that that's a cost to the business and building in that cost to be able to pay yourself to, a comparable to what you'd have to pay to hire someone else to do it it's a business cost. And if you're not thinking that way, then you're kind of diluting yourself. So I think a lot of business owners end up, not paying enough attention to the end game or how it's all structured. I would say so. I think you need to do both.
I agree. That's really good insight. What's one belief about wealth or success that's completely changed for you over the years?
That it's not the ultimate end game of life. It's, yeah, it's important. Money is important, but it's not the most important thing in this world. I mean, everybody is here for some time frame and then everybody's not here anymore. So if the only thing that you're concerned about is money and wealth, then I think you're missing, the real point of life.
And unpack that a little bit more, because this is a common theme amongst every guest I've had so far. We're on double digit shows at this point, and everyone has said it's not about, especially the uber successful, it's not about the money. I'm curious to know, unpacking that a little bit more, what do you feel like is the most important thing?
Well, awakening and understanding, that life is really lived in this moment and not in the past or in the future. And people spend far too much time worried about the future or beating themselves up about the past and not enough time living in the present moment. And that's obviously, in some ways, that's a cliche, but it's absolutely true. And I think that, look, it's easy to say for people with, lots and lots and super uber wealthy, it's easy to say it's not about the money, right? And but then meanwhile they have, and I certainly don't have that kind of money. And and I would say there's been points in my life where you aspire to that, but over time you realize that that doesn't really get you peace, or satisfaction or fulfillment as a human being. And no matter what, I mean, there's problems. You're always dealing with some issue, problem, challenge, whether it's finance, health, family, relationships, work, difficult people,
It's always something.
COVID, war, starvation, disease, tsunamis. I mean, there's just the nature of things, right? So
Yeah.
if you need to, in my judgment, it's more important. I heard an interesting quote on I listen to a lot of Eckhart Tolle, if you know who that is. Uh, Probably my favorite author and teacher, but he talks about, like, the most important thing is the level of consciousness and that you bring to everything that happens to you. So, but that's
And that's a challenge. I mean, that's extremely challenging, especially in an advisory business that you're in, because you're planning for the future, right? I mean, a lot of your time is spent thinking about the what if scenarios for your clients. But even for your own business, I suspect you're prudent and, you're a forward thinker, as am I in the business that I'm in and helping clients with legacy and wealth. I find myself struggling to stay in the moment, right?
It's
Because
very
very
hard.
quickly my mind goes to the future, or as you just mentioned, the things that happened in the past. It's extremely challenging to stay in the present.
It is extremely challenging. It is not easy, and that's, it's an epidemic, frankly, is, your mind just takes over, and the mind wants to start, thinking about all the what ifs and what might happen. Or look, man, I've made a lot of mistakes in my businesses, and I've had a lot of success, and I've helped a lot of people. I've also made a lot of mistakes that have, had impact on people. And you beat yourself up over those mistakes, and of course you look at it now and say, God, I should have known that, and well, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to armchair quarterback something, watch the game film and see where, hey, you missed the read, and it should have been obvious, right? But it wasn't at the time. So are you going to sit there and continue to beat yourself up forever? Or it's just because at the end of the day, man, is like, you only have right this very moment. Is all, every part of your life is lived in the current moment. There really is no future, and there is no past other than in your mind, right? So
And as a business owner, do you feel like that's where fulfillment and ultimate like peace will come from, is if people could operate in that present moment?
I think it's super helpful, but I'm not optimistic that you can somehow, manage people to be able to do that. Right. As you said, it's very hard. So it's not, as a business owner, it's not, I don't think it's realistic for me to say that, all the people that work here are going to be,
Hmm.
enlightened beings that are awakened spiritually and consciously and live, in the moment. I mean, which none of that abdicates your responsibility to make intelligent decisions, or to have plans or goals or targets that
Exactly.
you're moving toward, and to make good decisions
Exactly.
toward that. But it does mean that, you accept the fact that whatever happens happens, and it is the way that it is. And so it's simultaneously kind of planning and thinking about the future in a way that you can make good decisions, but not being completely absorbed by it to the point where, you're living your whole life mentally, either in the past or the future, and not where you are right now.
And I'm so intrigued by this conversation because as a serial entrepreneur, as a business owner, it also spills over, and there's no such thing as work life balance. Like, it's a complete blend and mixture, especially as an entrepreneur, and bringing bad days home to the house doesn't ever turn out well for anybody.
No.
And if as obviously I'm focusing on business owners and operators and entrepreneurs with this podcast, if we could figure out, I guess I'm talking to myself too, if I could figure out how to truly be present in the moment, plan for the future, put, guardrails and measures in place, but don't bring the bad days home, right? Don't bring that bad phone call home. Don't bring that, one client who's having a bad day themselves, let it rub off on you and bring it home. How have you been able to manage that?
No, it's hard, man. I mean, especially when you work at home. So like, I mean, I'm sitting in my home office right now, which is where I work. So I came downstairs, and, you know, outside my door is my dog and my wife. And so if something happens that's not pleasant, quote unquote, bringing it home is like walking
Just
20
walking through
feet,
the threshold right there.
So yeah,
Yeah.
separating those two things is very hard. Yeah, and of course, like, it's just human to, yeah, somebody has a bad day, somebody is pissed off about something, or angry, and difficult client or a difficult situation. How what do you bring to that situation? It's like, ideally you bring, awareness of the fact that that's just the way that it is, and you don't inflame the situation, by reacting in kind. But that's super hard. I'm not telling you I'm perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination, but
But you have an awareness of it for sure.
yeah, and I think, and it starts with an awareness of it.
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then
Agreed.
I think it helps you shorten the time in which you allow yourself to be completely reactionary. It doesn't eliminate it, but it shortens it because you can say, "Oh, wait a minute, and then calm down a little bit."
It almost makes me long for the 15, 20, 45-minute ride home from the office to the house,
Yeah,
which unbeknownst to ourselves
that's
was a
right.
decompression time. It was also a ramp up time when you're driving to
That's
the
right.
office,
That's exactly
and then a
right.
decompression time. We don't have that anymore.
I've had that exact conversation with several people that, because I mean, man, I'm at an age where, I mean, there was no such thing as really work from home most of my
No,
career.
yeah.
So I'm used to, I mean, when I was in California before I moved to Oregon, I mean, I had a lengthy commute, 30, 45 minutes, but I came to, well, never enjoy like being stuck in traffic, but to your point, the preparation and the decompression, there's something to it for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Well, now I understand the Bandon Dunes logo.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're for the golfers in the world, Bandon is a special place, that's for sure. And I live
I it's on my bucket list.
it's
It's
I
on
mean,
my
dude,
bucket list.
it is, I mean, for golfers, I mean, it is like borderline a spiritual experience. I mean, it is. I mean, and I'm biased, right? I mean, I live 4 hours from there. I'm in Portland, Oregon. Bandon's about a 4 hour drive. I've been going there since they opened in 1999. I've been there probably 40, 50 times. It is just, it never gets old.
Never gets old. That's good to hear from someone who's never been, who can't wait to
Oh,
go.
dude,
Don't have it booked yet.
you better book it because it's very hard to book now. I mean, they have a lottery system to even get
I know.
chosen, and then it's like a year and a half out. So it is not an easy reservation.
Yeah. So, how do you think about, back to you as a business owner, how do you think about creating liquidity or flexibility so that you can have that freedom and not be locked into the business?
Yeah, look, man, I'd say I mean, right now, honestly, I am locked into the business. I mean,
That's fair.
it's where we're at this point. I've tried over the years to create people and an organizational structure to uh, mitigate that, but I'd say I think it fluctuates over time, and it's been a very difficult past 2 or 3 years for me, for a lot of people in the real estate business, right? When I mean, asset values jumped like crazy after COVID, rates went to zero, right? Bought a lot of stuff at that point in time. Interest rates skyrocketed, market froze up, and property values plummeted, right? And unless you had long term fixed rate debt on stuff, it's been a very, very difficult market for the last going on 3 years now. So, for me personally, I mean, I've had to retrench. I've laid people off. I'm facing a lot of challenges in those businesses, that because I'm very heavily weighted and dependent on the real estate market. Like anybody who's heavily concentrated into one industry, is susceptible to, you know, the vicissitudes of that industry, right? And real estate's no exception. So at this juncture, I'm working my ass off basically to deal with all the things that. So I think this is the unsexy side of being an entrepreneur, is that you know
But it's the real side.
yeah, this is what you're dealing with.
And this is just a season. So, what are you waiting for? Is it the Fed to drop rates down where money can, loosen up a little bit? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that certainly I think will help if and when that happens, but you can't sit around and wait for things like that, right? You got to face and deal with the situation as it is, and you don't really know when it's going to change. You do know that eventually it's going to change because it always, I mean, it waxes and wanes, but you don't really know the timing. Right. And of course, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the world, aside from just interest rates, that impact what happens. So it's hard to say. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the market and in the world right now. So, and I think that's partly what keeps people on the sidelines. but I would say, and it's, I think the way my businesses have evolved, there's different component parts to it. And frankly, the introduction that you gave there is some of that is dated in the sense that Verivest doesn't really do some of that stuff any longer. And we're really a fund advisory and administration business helping other managers. So these are people running private 506 Reg D funds that raise money from high net worth accredited investors, helping them understand how to do it and then helping them manage the back office, et cetera. So all of that, I would say, what am I waiting for? I think we're actively looking to continue to engage clients. And then at some point, the real estate market will start to come back. And when it does, it'll probably start slow and then it'll catch a wave, and that wave will last for some period of time, and capital will flow again and be easier to raise, and people's value of their fund, they'll raise more money and they'll do more deals. But that has been very, very affected over the last 3 years.
Thank you for that clarity, and my apologies for the
Oh,
dated
it's no
introduction on
problem.
you.
I mean, yeah, it's it's like, and some of that, dude, is a reflection of the fact that as an entrepreneur, we've tried a lot of stuff over the years.
Yeah,
Some has worked really well and some has not worked very well. And, you iterate and you pivot and
you adjust.
I'd say
Yeah,
there's a lesson, right? Is like,
yeah.
I would say, if with the benefit of hindsight to the point around, beating yourself up over the past, if I had it to do all over again, I would have not. I mean, we tried to do too many things along the value chain of the people that we served. And by doing that, you diffused your efforts to the point where, no one of them was as good as it could have been. So I will focused on a subset of those things. Right. And then that's what we're doing now, is focusing on a subset of things and not trying to do too much.
Well, and yeah, but maybe trying all of those things, you found the one or two things that you really wanted to focus on, right? As opposed to focusing on one thing from the very beginning, and maybe it wouldn't have been your thing. So everything, happens for purpose. But I'm glad that you've gained clarity around that. But looking forward, ITR Economics is one of the economic advisory firms that I kind of follow. They're projecting the Great Recession in 2030, which is only just a few years away now. But how are you looking at the next 5, 10, 20 years, not just in business, but personally and financially?
Well, I'm 61 years old, so I'm looking at, the next maybe 3 to 5 years in terms of like, what can we do with this business, and get to a point where I'm now retired and out of the workforce and just have enough money to live comfortably for my life, and I'll likely do some still work and do some consulting and advisory work and that type of thing. But yeah,
Would that be an exit? Would that be, someone coming in and buying Verivest?
yeah, Verivest is on a path, a very deliberate path toward building a business toward an exit eventually. Now, if we get to a point where the business is, extremely runs itself and is extremely profitable, and I brought a CEO or president in or something, and it's conceivable that you hang on to it. Right? But the business that we're in is very appealing to a lot of larger admins, private equity shops, people in the fintech space it's a hard sector to enter. And, I've done it over a long period of time as a practitioner. So I think the business, with some revenue growth, the business is attractive as an exit.
What are you putting in place? What are some of the things you're putting in place to prepare for that ultimate exit so that you know that you can walk away?
Well, having a good team, of course, is a really good thing, and having, quality people around you that know what they're doing. But ultimately, I mean, any acquirer will likely want me to stick around for some period of time,
Yeah.
which I'm happy and willing to do, for a finite period of time, right? It's not, but depending on who the acquirer is, there's different, uh,
Earnouts. Yeah.
yeah, desires of what they would want
Hmm.
from me personally. I think that, a lot of the service delivery, once you sign up, it's hard to sign clients up because admin is not the sexiest thing in the world for them to engage in, and it's a complex sale. It takes a lot of time, but once you sign them up, assuming you can deliver the services, it's very sticky. So
Yeah.
it's good recurring, ongoing,
Once you get them.
and they tend to stick around. They do another fund, but I would say the capital raising for our clients in the real, and we're very real estate heavy.
Exclusive or just heavy?
I won't say exclusive. We have some clients, and well, we do a lot of private credit backed by real estate.
Okay.
So we do have some private equity and some private credit and VC, but it's very, very heavily weighted in real estate and real estate based assets like trust deeds, loans.
Mm-hmm.
They've struggled, although virtually everyone has struggled far more in the last 3 years to raise capital than they were from 2013 or 14 all the way up through 2022.
Yeah.
So
And money was flying at that time. What's a blind spot you think most successful business owners overlook when it comes to protecting their wealth?
That's a great question. Maybe a bit myopic in whatever it is that they know about, and not uh, not super engaged in things outside of their specific area of expertise, which certainly has been true for me. I mean, I did early on invest in some other stuff, so I've tried to say, okay, hey, if everything doesn't work in the business, I'm not, I've got enough, saved up elsewhere. But so that's first thing that comes to mind.
All right, I appreciate that. And one of my favorite wrap-up questions is, what's something you know now about business or wealth, for that matter, that you wish you would have understood 10 years ago?
10 years ago. Well, I think the answer I gave earlier would be focusing on a fewer number of things. I think that the core services that we provide today are very valuable and very hard to come by, well, I would say. And that's what really grew the business, and then we tried to add on other things that were not nearly as successful. So if 10 years ago I had just stayed with advisory and admin, the business would be double or triple the size it is today, and I wouldn't have wasted a great deal of resources, time, money trying to do other things that proved to not bear any fruit.
Got you. Got you. Well, let's wrap up with this. Let's do a quick lightning round. Let me ask you 3 or 4 questions, and I want the quickest answer or response you can think of off the top of your head.
Okay.
Okay. One book that changed how you view business or wealth.
Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play by Mahan Khalsa.
And I haven't heard of that one. Tell me a little bit about it.
It's really a book on sales, but I'd say it's much more a book on communication with people, on how to engage, balancing, cutting through surface level responses or automatic protection mechanisms that people have in the sales process to kind of get real, right? But also give them permission to you're not pressuring them, but you are making them actually identify the real issues in the process, and that's the trade-off, right? Is like,
Yeah.
so it's a skill that very good salespeople use, but it's, well, I mean, it was something that I practiced and kind of inherently knew, but he was able to put it in very eloquent
Articulate it.
words
Yeah.
that I find to be super helpful.
That's cool. What's a daily habit that keeps you grounded or focused?
Riding a road bike.
Really? You're a road bike? Yeah. I mean, I would guess.
Cycle.
In
Yeah, not
cycling.
a motorcycle. I say a lot of people think I mean a motorcycle.
No, I knew what you meant. I
Yeah.
used to, this is about 10 years ago before back surgery. I was I wouldn't call myself a cyclist, but I did a lot of road biking, enjoyed it immensely. And I'm embarrassed to say that the little bitty hills we have here in Houston or in the hill country of Texas would kick my butt. I can't even imagine what it is like riding where you are.
Yeah, I live up on a hill that's I have to climb. It's about a
To finish.
quarter-mile climb, like almost every ride I finish on
Oof.
at peak 14% grade, average 9% grade. It's
And what are you chucking at, about 6 or 7
no,
coming
not
up that
even,
hill?
no, not at this point. No, I mean, like it maybe 10 years ago, if I was my legs were good that day, maybe, but no,
How many times have you walked it
I haven't walked it. Oh, I've
to
walked it.
finish?
I don't know. And I've lived here for 21 years. I've probably walked it 15 or 20, well, probably 30 times, but I've ridden it. I calculated it. It's like it's over 2,000 times I've climbed that hill on the bike.
That's cool. That's good. And you get on it every day.
Not every day, but
Okay.
I would love to, but yeah, I don't have enough time to do it every day. But in the summer, more often, the weather is good and the days are long, and so yeah. But I'd say it's my favorite. That's mental and physical, right? So it keeps me in
Yeah, you
shape.
bet.
It's good mental,
Awesome.
yeah, time.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you joining Uncommon Wealth. The way you're approaching it, I think you're definitely your experience in addressing the issues that, you say you wish you maybe didn't spend time on those, but it's giving you perspective and it's enabled you to align and create the transparency and build the system that, is really what's key to building success. And then, like this podcast suggests, uncommon wealth. So I really appreciate you sharing your experience. I'd love to stay connected with you, especially around, you're helping other operators structure for long-term success. Kind of falls in line with what we do. So
Well,
thanks for joining the show.
yeah, my pleasure. I appreciate you having me, and enjoyed the conversation.
All right, man. I'd love to connect with you offline about it
Sounds good.
too. All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.